Today I will be talking about the Ascent. What the Struck is Ascent, my impressions of the game, and I'm gonna try and fit it into as short of a duration as possible and talk about everything there is to talk about in this game. So buckle up, strap in, and let's go. Starting with the story, there isn't not as much of an epic story as, for example, Cyberpunk 2077, but there are cutscenes. There is a main story, main missions. I don't want to spoil you too much. So I'm just gonna show you the description of the first 3 quests here, to give you kind of an idea about the basics, about the intro, the beginning of the game. See, the Ascent group has suddenly gone bankrupt for reasons unknown. The archaeology is in default shutdown mode and all sections are open to forced SI appropriation by rival corporations. The IO lab stack is threatened due to the shutdown as it cannot survive in isolation. That was the first main mission. So basically you have to go through this whole world, which keeps growing and growing because I keep unlocking new zones. And there's actually different tiers here with more stuff, and yeah, you keep teleporting. I mean, it's not really teleporting, you're traveling with a taxi. You can travel with metro stations. See, there's metro station here, there's one here, there's one there. You can use those. I've not used those yet to travel. I always use this taxi, but more about that later on. And yeah, there is a main story if you care about story. I personally don't care much about story in my games, so for me it's just like any other game, something that is there, it's good to have it, but it's not a must-have for me. Now let's talk about the combat. As I mentioned, there's the primary weapon, the secondary weapon, the tactical skill, and the two additional what was the name? The 2 additional augmentation slots with the 2 module boosters that make up the build, and those would be the things that that help you in combat. And as you see, we have our traditional isometric camera, third-person isometric camera, and you have regular fire, which is just using left click, or fire over, which is holding right click and using left click. But fire over doesn't hit those little guys, so make sure when fighting certain enemies to use the right amount of the right type of fire. But if an enemy is covering behind cover, see, right now this will hit the car, but if I do this, this shoots over the car. So yeah, make sure you know which fire you're using for which situation. Now let's use the tactical here. G is for me the hotkey. For the turret I can't use it unfortunately, but I can use the little exploding spiders I've got, just to show you. See how they're going finding targets and detonating. And now I don't have enough energy to use the other one, the big robot, but I can try and show you later and cut through to that specific part. You can see I can just fire. I'm using kind of like a rocket launcher. I can switch to a different weapon, which is automatic rocket launcher, which makes me move much slower. And just keep my range and stuff. I kind of didn't pick the best place to show you combat because there aren't that many enemies, but hopefully this shows you, kind of gives you an idea of what's to be expected. See, there's this big boy, and those are kind of lower level compared to me. And you can see enemies can just drop stuff. They can drop energy boosters, they can drop health boosters. Now let's show you the big robot, this guy with the rifle. Okay, now we've got a lot of enemies. Now I can shoot over to show you what happens. Although, as I mentioned, and those are actually around my level. You can see the combat is fast-paced, it's dynamic, it's fun. It could be difficult at times, obviously, but even then you kind of get accustomed to it eventually. And yeah, that pretty much is it for the combat. I think many of you would love the combat. You just have to get used to aiming the right way, moving the right way. It's a mixture between twin stick and a shooter-wooter. isometric game, so it takes a while to get used to it, but once you do, it will feel like you've always known how to do it. Now let's talk about the map. This is the map. There are a lot of things to pay attention to. Those are the details. So this is wood. Every single one of those orange chests is wood. So there's some of those hidden in your outposts, in your friendly zones. Some of those are in the aggressive zones with enemies, and if you feel like it, you can go ahead and hunt them down and open them. Obviously you can see this means elevator that transfers you from one zone to another, like from here to here. And yeah, there's entrances to certain things. That's main mission objective, that's side mission objectives. Like this one here, that's a side mission. This is the train stations, as I mentioned, and that pretty much covers it. Those are the NPCs. And yeah, on top of that you have fast travel, the taxis, which is by pressing T on PC. And if you've been to a certain place, it will let you travel. But certain zones you cannot reach with taxi unless you're in other zones that are connected to it. So right now I can only go to those places. I have other places I can go to. For example, if I go to Archaeology the Warrens and take the elevator to the other Archaeology, then I can take a taxi that will lead me to, for example, let's see, that's the Warrens. But if I take the elevator to the Deep Sting, then I can take a taxi to this one or this one. From what I've seen, that's how it works. So make sure you understand how to fast travel in the game. Now let's talk about the character screen. There are three pieces of important elements of your character: the skills, the Cyberdeck, and then there's the loadout and armor. But they're not on the character screen, but in a way they are. So we will start with the skills. The skills are your passives, like your attribute points. Like in some games you have strength, dexterity, intelligence, etc. Here you have those things. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Each of those can go up to level 20. You get 3 points for each level up. Right now I'm at level 16. And I have this one maxed out to 20. This one maxed out to 20. And I have this at level 6. So you can see tactical sense determines the amount of tactical charge gained for damage inflicted, associated with the cybernetics. Critical hit rate obviously is the crit chance, again associated with cybernetics. This one is and this one are affected by motorics. So weapon mechanic is reload and weapon swap speed. Aiming is the spread recovery rate. Balance is the resistance to stun, knockbacks and staggers, and the movement penalty. This is affected by frame alongside this. This one determines the evasion cooldown speed, which I think is between your spacebar, dodge rolls, or whatever you use on a controller. How little that cooldown will be. Now, vital signs and body is affected. Body battery is affected by biometrics. And this determines your max HP, this determines your max energy. And I think both are very important to invest into, especially if you want to be using more I'm gonna talk about that later, more tactic skills and stuff like that. Unfortunately for the Cyberdeck, there isn't much I can show you. Basically your Cyberdeck is your ability to hack certain things, such as analyze stuff, such as opening doors and chests. The better the Cyberdeck, right now I have the most basic and Ice Pick, the higher tier of doors and chests you can unlock. Some chests require Ice 2 or Ice 3. I haven't seen Ice 4, but I'm assuming there will be some. Some doors will also require higher Ice level. You start with Ice 1. Eventually this keeps growing. Right now my deck cannot hack ATMs. It can hack turrets, but not ATMs and not MISC. So this is how it goes for the Cyberdeck. Now for the loadout you have three components: a primary weapon, a secondary weapon. Any weapon can be either as a primary or a secondary. You can even use two of the same ones. And then a tactical, which can be all sorts of things, like different types of grenades, like a drone, which I'm using, all sorts of stuff. As for your primary and secondary, there are a ton of weapons. There are rocket launchers, there are assault rifles, there are SMGs, there are pistols, hand cannons, which is kind of like a pistol but more of a revolver style. There are machine guns, precision rifles, shotguns, and there are 4 types of damage. Ballistic, as you can see. There's I think shield or energy, and fire. I need to check it under armor. So there's physical, energy, digital, and fire. Those 4 types of damage a weapon can have. Ballistic is normally physical. Energy obviously is energy. Some are with fire and some will be digital in terms of weapons. And you might want to check the later segment for the shop, where I tell you all sorts of stuff about what's available in the shop, what types of weapon, and then about weapon upgrades. Now there's another component, and this is the armor, and the armor is again separated by 3 pieces. Head, where obviously you have the helmet, and again different helmets can give you different things. And you can see here the details, how you can compare which one has less, which one has more. And you can see there's different rarities. Again, this one is your most basic. This one is bronze, it seems. And this one is kind of silver. And I'm assuming that's how it will go. Normal, bronze, silver, maybe gold, maybe platinum. Later on. So yeah, this is the helmet, this is the torso. You can see there's all sorts of different torsos, and more about that in the shop segment. And legs, 3 nice components that each can give you different attributes, like upper body, lower body, crit. Right now there are certain things that can give you crit. For example, this one I think gave crit. This one definitely gives me 6 crit rate. So this one gives me 5 crit rate, and so on. And your crit rate, you can check your crit rate here when you press check details. I have 11 crit rate from items. This is the stats you get from items. The stats you get from skills don't get added here. So this 20 crit rate is added on top of that 11 for 31. But yeah, that's kind of how it works with the armor and stuff. The next component of your character are augmentations, which are your skills, your spells, in the equivalent to spells in games, as well as passives. You have 2 active and 2 passive. On the active slot you can put things like the Mono Ranger, which is like a robot with a rifle, spider bots, which are explosive seeking targets, spider bots. There's hydraulic slam, there's propulsion leap, and there's all sorts of other things that you would be able to unlock. And any of those can go on any of the 2 slots. Maybe you can even go with 2 of the same. I'm not sure if it will let me, because right now I don't have enough energy, enough mana to try using 2 Mono Rangers, for example. And then the modules are your passives, basically. See, right now I have something that increases my maximum HP, and eventually when I find another module I would equip it. And this combined with the armor and the weapons and the tactical, which is yes another skill, with the skills that you check, is gonna be your build diversity. I haven't seen any unique specific weapons with special affixes attached to them, but you will see later how you can upgrade weapons, and once you've upgraded it, if the weapon drops, it remains upgraded. If you go to the shop and they sell that weapon, they will sell the upgraded version. So upgrades are kind of permanent. Now let's talk about NPCs. There are several NPCs in the town, and I want to show you first the list. There is this one, weapons vendor, armor vendor, cyber vendor, Grafter, which is for augments and stuff, and also reskinning if you don't like what your hero looks like, if you messed up during character creation, Gunsmith, which is for upgrades, and Bounties. We are right next to the Gunsmith, which is where you upgrade your weapons. So let's, for example, take this one. This one I can upgrade it to Mark 6. So right now it will go from this to that. It will go to silver grade. From bronze grade, I think. And now I can upgrade it again. And boom. And soon it will go close to golden grade. And now I used my components. You find components which are used for upgrading. And there's different rarities of components. And obviously the better the thing you want to upgrade gets, the more components you will need. For example, let's take this machine gun. I can try and upgrade it, and boom, I use my component. Now let's take this again, and I have no components to upgrade any further. But see, this one went from bronze to gold in the nameplate. And it's already Mark, what mark is it? 8. It was Mark 5. So yeah, as you keep upgrading, they will change what they look like. And there's also weapon skins. So you can take a weapon, and then there's different weapon skins over here. If the weapon has it, you would be able to change it. I guess it has to be on the main weapon slot for the weapon skin to kind of trigger. But yeah, it's pretty good, and I love this NPC, and it will be everyone's best buddy. And here we are at the gun vendor, which is another one of your best buddies if you want to do damage. Eventually, every now and then, they will update the inventory of this NPC. And you can see it compares your main weapon, not your secondary. And fortunately, there is no quality of life, as far as I know, where I can change it. So instead of my main weapon here, it would compare my secondary. But yeah, you can compare, you can see what's what. And you can check all the different types of items, guns that they're selling. And it tells you the DPS and the damage type, which is pretty interesting. You can see there's precision rifles, there's excessive ones. Like, see that one that I upgraded, it already sells as Mark 8 in the shop. That's what I wanted to talk about. As you're upgrading, the upgrade is permanent, and then when you go and try and buy that weapon, it's already the maxed out version. If you find it as a drop, it will be that maxed out version. Keep in mind I'm playing on DirectX 11 because on DirectX 12 my FPS went down the drain. And I play with low shadows instead of ultra. So the game could look much better if I amp up the shadows. And you can also sell stuff. Things you don't need, you can just take them and you can just sell them. Let's say you don't need some weapons. Like you don't need this, this room sweeper. And boom, you can sell it and you get 2500. Let's say we don't need this riot gun. Or maybe the heat. Boom, 4000. And that's how you get funds. It's not that difficult. It's pretty straightforward. Here we are in front of the armor store. Actually, I'm not sure why it's showing me this. I already saw it before. And yeah, now in the armor shop, the same like the weapon shop, they will be restocking things every now and then. You can show the details here to see what you're comparing. There are all sorts of things. You can see there's some amazing variety of what the armor looks like the different helmets. I wanted to show you that. Look at how much there is. This one, for example, looks pretty nice. Then look at the upper body, and again they start with like basic white rarity, then they go into bronze, and eventually silver, and eventually, I'm assuming, just like the weapons, it moves on to gold. And there's a lot of stuff. And if you don't like the color scheme with blue and yellow, which is the Struck color scheme, have no fear, you can change that later at the Grafter. You can change your colors if you want to look if you want your armor to have a different hue. They are not all blue and yellow. They're blue and yellow because that's the color palette I have picked myself. And I wish I could just move down to the pants section, because this one is kind of covering and you can barely see. There should be some quality of life here where you can move the camera down, or when you click to lower body, it should just focus the camera a little bit lower to the pants. So that's pretty much it, pretty straightforward. You can see the stats. If you like something, you get it. If you don't, you don't. Straightforward about the armor shop. And next to the armor shop is the cyber shop, where you get cybernetics. And cybernetics, again, they're just tacticals. And there's a bunch of tacticals like a turret, frag grenades, different grenades here, all sorts of weird grenades, shockwave grenades as well, stasis drone, the one I'm using. I'm probably gonna get an auto turret to test it. So yeah, you can sell stuff as well. You can sell anything in any shop apparently, but you can obviously only buy the things you want. And since I bought a new tactical, I can replace the stasis drone for a turret, although this one is 500 charge, this one is 1000, so it means this one you can reuse this much sooner than that one, and this one even much sooner. It takes a while to get the energy needed to reuse, but we will test the turret later tonight on my stream. Now in this starting town you have to take this elevator to get down to the grafting with G. The grafter, as I mentioned earlier, is somewhere where you can browse Chrome, which is augmentations, all sorts of augmentations, as well as modules, different modules, which, as I mentioned, are your passives. See, execute extreme evasive maneuvers instead of the regular row. Digital torn module, a fixed percentage of melee damage gets thrown back at your attacker, so if you want a melee damage reflected build, you can get that module. Recharge the tactical equipment faster or more, extra health for all healing pickups and abilities. Heal faster, heal better, stay alive. I will probably test this one, and yeah, there's a lot of augmentations. I might test the Mono Scrapper alongside the Mono Ranger that I've got. Okay, we can't buy this one yet. There's a homing meme, walks to nearby enemies and fires, and the cooldown is only 10 here. Homing missiles, there's, as I mentioned, a lot of stuff. This one seems like it's amazing, and I'm probably gonna try and use it. And you can sell stuff, but the other good stuff about the Grafter is the surgery. Surgery means you can respec your skills here. The more you have invested, the more expensive it is. At the beginning, when I first checked the Grafter, it costed only 20,000. I think it either picks your level or the points spent. But right now it costs 70,700, so I guess it's per point or per level how much the cost is. 70,000 is a little bit too much at this point of the game. I'm not sure how much it will be when you're at max level and doing endgame and farming, grinding endgame stuff. I'm not sure how this cost will be, but I think the devs should reduce this cost. Let people have more freedom, let them respec more. Don't make me sell my kidneys so I can respec in a game. Here you can, as you see the augmentations, you can change the biology. Gender, face, pigment, facing, body ink, and the style. Main color, as I mentioned, you can change what the main color is. You can see how it's changing. You can change the support color, as you can see. So this is where you undo your character creation mistakes, basically. That's what it is. And this one is the bar, where normally there is an NPC that collects bounties, a bartender. There are multiple ones spread around the whole map. There are at least 2 that I know of in the main town, in the main outpost. You can just collect bounties. Every bounty is like 1,000 so far. Maybe there are more that will give you better rewards, but right now you can see this one is 1,000, boom, I sold it. This one is 1,000, boom, I sold it. You don't have to have the bounty picked up. You just need to find the enemy that's wanted. It will tell you, kill it, and then later on it will let you collect the bounty as soon as you talk to the bartender. Now let's look at my list of pros and cons for the game. As pros, I would say it's a beautiful world, amazingly well designed with a ton of attention to detail. The game is also with a cyberpunk aesthetic through and through. Everywhere you go you would see that it's evident. Then it's got very nice fast-paced combat. I really love that one. Another thing worth mentioning is amazing visual effects, from the explosions of projectiles to the projectiles that are like beams and energy bullets, to the blood and the gore when you gip enemies and things like that. The nice contrast between dark and bright, the neon lights and the dark and gritty textures, it's just amazing. Top-notch soundtrack worth mentioning. Plenty of build diversity when you consider primary, secondary weapons, tacticals, the 2 modules, the 2 augments, and where you spent your passive skill points. Then there's plentiful drops. There's also permanent upgrade system, which I really love, and there's also couch co-op. There's probably more to mention, but those are the ones I can think of at the top of my head. Now, as cons, I would say easy can sometimes be a bit too hard for solo players, especially at the beginning, which I hope they look into and make easy, well, easy. And then there's no random matchmaking, it seems. I had hosted an online game, but no one could join, so I assume it's invite only, and that's not great if you don't have friends to invite. Then walkout saves means cheaters, another con. It won't bother many, but there will be people out there that will be bothered by this. So the way to solve this is to prevent walkout saves from playing online with others and things like that. I think that's a short list of cons and pros, but if you can think of any more pros and cons, feel free to add them as a comment under the video. Again, this is based on my personal preferences and the way I like games, so you might think something that I believe is a pro to be a con and vice versa. To get notified when I upload more content for this game or other games like this one, which would be wooters of all varieties, isometric, third-person ARPGs, wooter shooters and all sorts of wooters like that, you could subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button to not miss out on my content updates. And optionally, you can even join as a member of the STRUCKTLF on YouTube as a channel member to get access to exclusive perks such as special emotes custom made by me, special badges custom made by me that represents how many months you have been a member for, as well as opt-in of editing tutorials that I can give for Photoshop, Adobe Premiere, as well as shoutouts and things like that. And I would like to use this part of the video to thank all my YouTube members and Twitch subscribers. Thank you for supporting the channel and keeping me going. Thank you also for watching this video, everyone. Keep it cool, STRUCKTLF. Until next time, and goodbye.